Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party!
A Monster Party!
Oh, Monster Party!
I am ready to party in a creepy way.
Yes, I am too. And the reason why I am is that this particular episode is about TV horror.
TV horror.
TV horror. And who better to guide us through this mystical land than longtime friend of all of us?
Yes.
My God, actor, director, voiceover extraordinaire, the fabulously talented Wally Wingert.
Wally Wingert.
Hey, everybody. Hey, what's happening? How are you? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Wally.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of you guys for a long time. I love what you're doing, and I know each of your work individually, and you're all
Oh,
fabulous, outstanding in your
Yeah.
field.
And I am Matt Weinhold.
I am SHAWN SHERIDAN.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James GONIS.
Let me just get right to it.
TV horror.
TV horror. I mean, there's so much, and holy Christ, where do we start?
Well, the funny thing is, growing up as a kid and watching classic monster movies on television,
Right.
These were movies that were made for the movies. But as far as television goes, it seems like it took a while for really creepy monster stuff or horror stuff to come out.
And I think our age, the age that we are in our generation, kind of grew up a lot on the 70s TV movies,
Yeah.
The TV shows from the 70s that were horror-based. Those really had an impact on us.
And it is kind of surprising. There were a good amount of those TV movies that were horror-themed. That sort of surprising, and they did very well. Most of those. I mean, we always forget that one of Steven Spielberg's earliest works was Duel.
Yeah.
Right.
Arguably one of the best of that genre.
Right. And a Night Gallery before that, right?
Sure.
Night Gallery was
the
awesome.
Night Gallery movie that led to the TV series.
It's funny you bring up Night Gallery. As a kid, I did watch some Twilight Zones, but the Night Gallery really freaked me out because I think it had to do with the music and it was in color.
It was more kind of straightforward horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one in particular I remember about. There was, I'm trying to think, was it Roddy McDowell? I'm not sure who the main character was, but it had to do with the uncle or the father is buried in the
Yeah, that was
graveyard.
that was the Night
pilot
Gallery
of the movie.
TV movie.
That's
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
pilot
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
And what was weird is when he looks at this painting and you see in the painting
Getting closer to the house.
exactly,
Yep.
and
It's a painting of the graveyard where the
painting of the
The
graveyard.
guy's buried.
guy's
and then
buried.
Every time he looks back at the painting, it's another step of this guy rising from the grave.
because basically he pushed up the guy's death himself by like opening the window so it was cold.
Yeah, yeah.
So he made he
hastened
caused the
his
guy
death.
to die.
But as a kid, in my own little mind, when I was watching that, and I'm watching them cut back and forth, in my mind I was thinking, oh, did they just put like a little color forms thing? And it didn't look. It didn't look. It looked like it was a real painting, and it creeped. As a matter of fact, talking about it just gives me goosebumps.
No, it's so freaky, and that's one of those things that I hope that stuff is around somewhere. Like, where are those paintings?
Oh,
Wouldn't
yeah.
you
The
love to have
original
all
paintings.
7 of those paintings?
We were out here in 1976 touring California as a family from South Dakota, and we went on the Universal Studios tour. And we drove by one of the warehouses, and the door was open, and the guy who was giving the tour said, "Oh yeah, in there you can see some of the paintings from Night Gallery." I'm like, "Where?" I loved Night Gallery as a kid, and my favorite one was the John Carradine one. A big surprise.
Oh yeah, yeah.
My favorite one. 'cause
Yeah, that's a
It was a
great one.
short one too.
It was a short one, yeah.
yeah.
And I said, "Dad, how did that happen?" I was asking my dad because he says, "Oh, the old guy probably had like some sort of tunnel underneath, and he wanted to scare the kids." Very logical. But I had a
Thanks, Dad. Thanks for ruining everything.
thanks for ruining. I had a paper route as a kid. Now it's South Dakota, so it's the dead of winter, and everything is frozen solid. On Sunday mornings, I had to get up at about 4 in the morning to go deliver the early Sunday paper. The rest of the week, it was afternoon papers. So I'm walking around, deathly quiet on a Sunday morning. It's still really dark out. It's about 5:36 in the morning. I'm delivering these papers, shivering, and it's deathly quiet. All you hear is the snow crunching under your feet. And anytime like the ice would start to move in somebody's rain gutter, And having just saw that, like the night before, watching Night Gallery, I'd be like, what was that? What was that? Scare the crap. I was like throwing papers on the people's stoops just to get the hell out of there.
Just start blowing your rape whistle.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But nothing else was around. It was just the rain the ice cracking in the rain gutter, and
it's amazing how
easy.
easily you can scare yourself.
Yeah.
Well, we were also really little kids when a lot of this stuff came out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember my mom was a big fan of Night Gallery, and I was 6. And I was, my head was under the pillow just so I wouldn't hear the music and the sound.
That music
That
is
theme.
By the
And those
great
faces.
Gil Millet.
Gil Millet.
One of
Gil
the
Millet.
few electronic scores for television that early on.
Yeah.
He went on to do, actually Night Stalker. He went on to do Andromeda Strain.
No, I
The
didn't know
Sentinel?
that.
Great pioneering guy with electronic music.
He played at our wedding.
That music is so creepy.
And the opening montage
Yes,
of the
yes.
visuals
those
of all those
faces.
creepy
Oh, my God.
faces, like they look like they're in pain and agony.
And
It's
it's
like,
funny.
It's like he just went guerrilla filmmaking into like an old folks' home. But he
Yeah.
went,
But you see,
your kids are never going to come here again.
did you like put a camera on the Phantom Zone and get the picture of the
But see,
Yeah,
that's,
so
like,
creepy.
that's what's so cool about Night Gallery. You know that it's more than just a script and the actors and it's someone had to paint a painting,
Right.
You know,
Yeah, it was
for
built
each of
around that
these-
concept.
Each
Right.
paintings, and like what Wally was saying, I mean, these paintings are somewhere. You know, I mean, I guess some
I
of
would
them
love
are
to have all of
collectors.
that.
Well, it was a great concept, and let's not forget what the concept was and what this is coming out of. This was, Twilight Zone was huge in the '60s, late '60s.
Not
and
familiar with it.
This
No.
was kind of Gene.
Rod
Rod Serling.
Sean's been
Rod
drinking a
Serling.
little
Oh
bit.
my God.
Rod Serling's kind of take on the
Gene
same kind
Serling
of the
did
same
start
kind of
Twilight.
anthology
Yeah.
concept, but this is like early '70s now. So, but it was a little more horror.
Yeah.
They did some Lovecraft type stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you're
they
right.
did
It was based
literal.
around the paintings where at the start of every episode, he would introduce a painting,
Yeah.
and you would go into that painting, and that was the story. And it
Yeah.
was a great idea.
One of my favorites, the caterpillar, which is with the earwig.
Lawrence Harvey.
oh yes,
Yes,
yeah,
Lawrence Harvey,
He put it in the wrong guy.
guy who wants to make a little time with this guy's wife.
Yeah.
Joanna Pettit.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
lovely
very
Joanna
good, very
Pettit.
good.
Wow.
Thank God you're here.
I know. You can always count on Sean.
Drunk or otherwise.
Really. You at half capacity is 100% of most. But he puts it in the wrong ear.
It's a
He
little
hires a guy to
caterpillar.
hires
do
a
it.
guy to do it.
Yeah.
The guy puts it instead of the husband's ear, puts it in his ear.
And remember
goes
the
into the
Jack
wrong
Cassidy one where he hires the guy to kill him in the middle of the night, and he's
yes.
wandering around, and Jack Cassidy actually was the guy that got killed accidentally by the hired.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. How about the Adam West, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde one?
Oh yeah, that was another short one.
Is that the more vermouth?
And that was unique about the show was that they did varying times for these stories. Some were really short, and some were longer.
Yeah.
They kind of like played around with it a little
Sort
bit,
of let
which
the
is kind of
story
cool.
find its length. And,
Yeah, which
And
is kind of
the
cool.
smaller ones were probably filler, really.
Yeah, but they were still kind of cool. It was a cool
I
way
still
to do
enjoy
it.
it. As corny as they were,
Yeah,
I
they
still
did.
liked it.
They did comedic ones, straight comedic ones too. Sometimes.
Well, you remember that right down the street here, we live in the neighborhood of Mr. Joe Campanella, one of the great character actors of all time,
absolutely,
Mannix,
yes.
and he played like a Dracula who was going out for the night, but he needed a babysitter to watch Junior, and you hear Junior, you can never see Junior, but you hear him, Junior, back. And so he comes down to the babysitter, oh no, Junior will be fine, and she's starting to see like all of these books and the things, vampirism and all this stuff, and then she takes off, and there's nobody to watch Junior. Hilarious.
Which then reminds me, of course, of the Victor Buono one where he's the cannibal. And he keeps interviewing secretaries.
Yeah.
And they're too thin, and then the fat one comes in. He goes, when did she start? You go, oh, no, it's fine. I'll eat her here.
One of my favorite though, which is a really creepy one, was Green Fingers.
Oh,
Green Fingers was the great Elsa Lanchester, the original Bride of Frankenstein, was on this little house in this area that was going to be bulldozed for some corporation. And great character actor Cameron Mitchell is the executive guy who wants to pay her off to get rid of her house, but she won't budge. She won't move out of her house. So he arranges to have her killed. But she loves her garden. She tends to her garden all day. So she always says like anything grows in my garden. So he has her knocked off.
They cut off a finger, like they torture her first.
Yeah.
So they cut off a finger, and then she buries the finger.
She buries a finger, and she goes and dies, I think. And then what happens is she grows. Another one of her grows out of
From the finger.
the finger.
And the big line,
Oh, I can.
Everything I plant grows, even me.
And Cameron Mitchell goes nuts, and his hair goes white.
And I
it's-
remember
it's great.
seeing that as a kid, and because you see, at first you don't see her, you just see like her feet, and the camera just sort of tilting up, and you see these little roots sticking out of her legs,
yeah.
and that freaked me out so much. It's like, okay, everything I believe is wrong.
Great show.
Yeah, Night Gallery
great
was a
show.
great
Yeah.
show. But how many seasons did it have, Sean? Because I don't know.
Well, it's weird. I think they had a couple seasons,
Yeah.
and then something strange happened with it where it kind of metamorphosized into this other much weaker kind of
yeah.
show called The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, Gary
With-
Marshall.
with,
not Gary Marshall. Not Gary Marshall.
Collins.
Gary Collins, yes.
As this like psychic guy or a professor who deals in like psychic phenomena. And it was like an ESP mystery show. Not the same, but they kind of like aired it in this time slot of Night Gallery, and I think
Right.
in syndication they called it Night Gallery.
Right.
It was very strange, but it was not the same show at all.
No. It wasn't.
They changed the theme too. I think second or third season. I think it went for like 2.5 seasons, if I remember.
Yeah, I
right.
think you're right, yeah.
very very strange because I remember watching every episode on the box set.
Yeah.
and the first couple, has those crazy faces and the
Right,
great
right.
music, and then it's like something has changed. It's just not quite the same.
It's really a shame.
My
It's-
my effects guy Jim Ojala, who does all the stuff in my house, I turned him onto it.
Yeah.
So you've got to watch this, but start with like the second season and work backwards.
Right,
Don't
right.
worry about the other stuff because and he
I
loved it.
I remember an interview with Rod Serling where he said that Mannix was getting really big right around that time, and there was a lot of pressure from the producer to make the show more action
Like
adventure.
Mannix?
Yeah.
Are you
Weird.
serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's combine
Typical-
Night Gallery and
Frustrating.
Mannix. What can go
We're
wrong?
looking for a horror Mannix.
How weird.
Call it Hannix.
Network mentality.
Yeah, with a Wolfman. Call it Wolfman Nix.
Well, not to jump off here exactly, but there is another horror show that came out that I really love. I remember seeing the pilot episode.
I think if what you're going to say, what it is, my single
ahead.
favorite. No, go ahead.
The Night Stalker.
Yep.
Kolchak. the Night
Kolchak
Stalker.
the Night
Kolchak
Stalker
the
with
Night
Darren
Stalker.
McGavin.
Darren McGavin.
I mean, I remember watching the. I was so excited when I saw the previews that this movie was. This new TV show, and I think the first episode it had to do with there was an elevator that went down really far into the earth, and there was like this alligator creature or this. Do you remember
yeah,
that?
that was the
And
last
Tom,
episode,
That's the last up.
and-
Yeah, it's not the first one.
well, then it must have been the first one that I saw because Tom Bosley was in it
Oh,
from
yeah,
Happy
yeah.
Days, and I
Right,
remember,
right.
oh my gosh, it's the dad! It's the dad from Happy Days, and he's
see.
yeah.
Well, the Night Stalker was spawned from two fantastic TV movies.
Yeah.
Based on, I think, a novel, right?
Novel, yeah.
Jeff Rice?
Jeff Rice.
I
Jeff
think,
Rice,
right.
And I guess wasn't the first TV movie that was the pilot really? Wasn't that kind of like what it was at that time? It was the highest rated TV movie of the time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, it was.
a
It
big
was.
surprise.
And that was a Dan Curtis production, right?
That's
Absolutely,
correct.
right.
Yeah,
and
from-
we'll talk more about him.
Yeah.
Dark
But,
Shadows fame.
Yeah.
But it was the Night Stalker. It did really well, and they did a second TV movie, The Night Strangler,
Strangler.
with Richard Anderson, Oscar from $6 Million
Million
Man,
Man, right.
as the bad guy, kind of like an immortal, kind of like alchemist kind of guy who needs
Kind of
people's
Jack the
blood.
Rippery.
Yeah. And then that spawned the TV series. And as a kid, the show, Kolchak the Night Stalker, for a kid my age at the time, it was the perfect show. It was a monster of the week. It had Darren McGavin as this intrepid reporter who nobody else believed in.
No one believed him.
He was on his own mission by himself, and he tried to convince people that there were monsters in Chicago.
He's
and
always
he
getting
stopped them.
shit from Vincenzo, his editor.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh,
But it was just like
Vincenzo.
so
And he
great.
could never really prove at the end. There was something would always happen where he could
Yeah.
never really prove.
And
And
he
it was
was funny, he was witty, he
great.
was always
And the show took place a lot at night. There was a lot of nighttime photography for a show back then, which was kind of expensive.
the Day
to do.
Stalker didn't work so well.
Right,
Day
right.
for night.
That was the Day for Night Stalker.
But Dan Curtis wasn't actually involved in that show.
Not in the
was he?
TV series.
And
No,
and the series suffered, I think, because of that.
it did. But still, as a kid, I love it. I still have such affection for it.
Yeah, I mean there are some individual episodes that are really great, and it's just when they it seemed like the last 4 or something, they just went fuck it. Like the first one that you saw with the
Yeah,
alligator,
the alligator one.
is
That was the
like
first one that I
that
remember.
thing might as well have been on an episode of HR Puffin stuff. It was
Hey,
Yeah.
I first of all, I really like HR Puffin stuff.
Okay.
and let
Yeah,
me
and
tell
how-
you,
how terrified were you
see,
of
I
it?
think you're downplaying it because it was really
I am
creepy.
downplaying it. It's terrible.
No, it is not terrible. It's great because actually, what happens is they're going down in an elevator. You're going down into this hole, and I remember Tom Bosley goes, "Yes, we're going down like 400 feet under the earth," and it's like, and I thinking about it, you're in this elevator. If the lights went out or something, which was what happens, you know,
A
going down the
guy
hall.
in a dragon suit is loose in an office building.
But it looked
Yeah.
really cool in the dark, Matt.
Yeah.
It looked really cool. It was this
No,
giant
it didn't.
alligator.
It looked like a-
It did. I'm sorry.
It looked like a low-rent alligator man.
Well,
Yeah.
or from the alligator people or
Alligator
something like
people.
that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I like that. Well, okay, what was your favorite?
Well, there's
monster?
several. I mean, there are a lot. The zombie episode was
zombie
great.
one.
Zombie
Yeah,
one
so-
is so good.
The Jack the Ripper episode, I think, was one of the first episodes. The vampire one, which was like a female vampire who
the
like
follow-up to the
goes
movie,
LA.
right?
Yeah, kind of. It was like she was kind of maybe a victim from the vampire from the first TV movie. And also my favorite one was a Hindu creature called the Rakshasa.
With the swastikas.
Yes.
Yes, I was just going to talk
love
about
that.
that.
Is that the
Yeah.
one?
Yeah.
That's
Tell
one
me
that's
my favorite one.
with
Yeah.
Phil Silvers,
The
right?
guy goes in
Yeah.
the middle of like the Jewish town and puts swastikas everywhere, and they're like, "What are you crazy?" And come to find out, he's not putting it up because there's swastikas. He's putting it up because it's an ancient
a
symbol.
more ancient symbol,
that to
right.
keep this creature away that's been stalking him all the time. And
Right.
Isn't
And
that
it can take
interesting?
on the shape of other people, and
that
that's
you
how it
love or
lures people
trust.
in.
right, yeah.
Great episode. I think written by Jimmy Sangster, who was the screenwriter
Yeah.
for a lot of Hammer films.
And one of my favorite comedic actors, Phil Silvers, in that.
He's great in that.
I can't believe I'm being killed by a monster. Doberman.
Wally, one of my fondest memories will always be we were at the Chiller Show in New Jersey together, and on a flight back from Newark, and you had the Night Stalker on DVD, and we were watching it
Right.
on a portable DVD player.
Do you remember what episode we saw?
I do not.
Yeah.
That was several years ago.
It was,
Yeah.
the alligator one. It was the alligator.
Alligator one, yeah.
Which one was Richard Keel in? Was he the alligator?
He was,
man?
he was in a couple
No,
of them.
he was in a couple,
He was a
I think.
monster in a few of them. He was the swamp monster.
Swamp Monster, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was
But
a
isn't he
great
also
one.
some? Was he in?
He was the Indian spirit.
Indian
Also,
spirit,
That's the
yeah,
one I
that's
remember.
right.
Yeah.
It's Indian
Yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
Now, was that the
great.
same episode with Eric Estrada where he's sort of the sacrifice?
No, that's the mummy one. That's the mummy where like he's going to tear out his heart, you know. But
But I thought he was like that was like a Quetzalcoatl kind of thing, like where he
It was, yeah, where like he was allowed to live a life of luxury and anything he wants for a certain number of years, but then at the price he has to pay is that he has to be the sacrifice for this.
Yeah, when he was like
Aztec
23. Like,
Yeah.
it's a really crappy deal. Right.
I love the comedy in that show was so great and so spot on, especially between Simon Oakland and
my
Darren
God,
McGavin.
yes.
And Darren McGavin is trying to get him off the phone, so he breaks out his electric razor. Yes, like, I'm sorry, Simon. I'm not gonna. So then the callback humor is later. Simon Oakland's talking. He said, "You know, Kolchak, this morning when I was shaving, it occurred to me."
Yeah, that's great. No, there was Simon Oakland, the great Simon Oakland. He and Darren McGavin had such chemistry. There was a great episode where it's a Satan worshiper episode where it's Tom
Skerritt.
Tom Skerritt is a political he's running for political office and he turns into like a Doberman when he's and Kolchak's starting to convince Vincenzo, like, I'm telling you, this dog, it disappeared, then it was in the elevator, and Vincenzo's like, Carl, like, I don't mind that you're doing a political piece, but why does ours have to have a dog in it? It's great.
Who was the guy with the
Great
mustache? Wron, who is the guy?
Oh, yeah.
the other guy who could never do anything right.
I don't know his name. Yeah. Ron Updike.
Updike.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And he was like, wasn't he like the? So he was like the fashion editor,
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
restaurants
Yeah.
or something
Yeah, he was
like
very
that.
metrosexual.
Yeah.
Updike.
Did Darren McGavin get to reprise the Kolchak role, sort of like thinly veiled in the X-Files episode?
Kind of, yeah. A little bit. He never
Yeah.
officially played him, but that's the thing about Night Stalker was it really was kind of a very influential show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Chris Carter went on to say that show was very influential in the creation
How many
of the
seasons?
X-Files.
How many seasons did Stalker?
Just one Night
Just one,
Stalker.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure?
Friday nights at 10 o'clock on ABC.
But you know what? And jumping ahead to the X-Files, that is what, in my opinion, the X-Files at its best were those standalone episodes. When they tried to do the overarching, the story
serialized,
arcs,
yeah.
it all just fell apart. It
Yeah.
was, and especially when you got to the movies, it was just,
Yeah.
let's just get out of this.
Well,
Yeah.
another thing about Kolchak the Night Stalker, it was a very distilled, no-nonsense show. You literally never saw Kolchak at his home in the series.
Never.
Ever.
Oh my God,
He was
you're
either
right,
on the
Sean.
streets at night
Yeah.
looking for
Junkie
monsters,
car.
or he's in his
he's in
office.
office.
I think in the TV movie, the first TV movie, you saw him briefly like, in a small little apartment in a couple scenes, but
Yeah.
he never had a relationship with a woman.
Right.
He was always looking for monsters.
Wore
That's
the
all that
same
mattered.
damn seersucker suit every week.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Again,
didn't he have a
great.
better hairpiece in the pilot?
Yeah, I think so.
Incidentally, I don't know if
Carol
you've been,
Lindley.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you anybody been to Baron Hats in Burbank? the hat maker, like Hollywood
no, I've
hat
heard of that
maker.
place, though, yeah.
they actually make they can make you a Kolchak
Oh, my
straw
God.
hat. Yeah, so-
Oh,
I know
yeah.
where I'm going right after
Any
that.
cosplayers out there? Anytime I see a Kolchak at like a con, I always have to tip my hat because that's
awesome.
I get it. Yeah, they have all the junk around there, the little tape recorder and the straw hat.
That's great. That's great.
I know a belt maker, and I've had the Kolchak belt made.
Now those are two TV series, but there was a classic soap opera, if you will,
Oh, yes.
that I know Wally knows really well. Yes. You want to tell us a little bit about?
Tell us a little bit about something called
Dark
Shadowy?
Shadows.
What is it?
No,
What's
Willie.
it?
Now, the
It
funny,
was a night such as this, a night when a young woman fell off Collinwood Cliff. He was. Do you know the whole story about how he got the job?
tell us Dark
We're
Shadows.
talking about Jonathan Frid, the star
of
of
Dark
Dark
Tell
Shadows.
us what is Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadows started in 1966. The storyline, it was an afternoon show, a soap opera at about 3 o'clock on ABC, and it dealt with a woman who was a phoenix in a picture that had power over her. She wanted to call her son. She was dead. Laura Collins wanted to bring the son into the painting with the fire and everything, and the father would not let the child go. So it was just this weird, convoluted story for a year, and it wasn't really going anywhere. Created by Dan Curtis, who saw it, the opening of the show in a dream. He saw, my name is Victoria Winters, and he saw this girl on a train, and he says, I'm going to do a show about that. Now, he was doing a lot of golfing shows on ABC at the time, and he went to his friend at ABC and said, hey, I got this idea for like this weird kind of gothic soap opera thing. What do you think? He's like, oh, well, let's do it. Yeah, so he got the go-ahead. It only went for about a year with that Phoenix storyline. It really wasn't going anywhere. So he knew they were going to be canceled. Cancellation was imminent. So he says, well, we're going to be canceled. And his daughter says, Daddy, why don't you put a vampire on? The vampires are really great. You know, this is pre-Twilight.
Right,
But his
right.
daughter said, oh, vampires are really great. He's like,
Listen to kids.
We could probably do that. So he hires a vampire who's going to be on for about 6 weeks. They're going to stake him. He's going to die, and the show will probably be over by then anyway.
Right.
Okay.
So the story, I got two different stories on it. One was that he was so disconnected from the show at that point. He says, I'm going to be golfing, hire some guy for the vampire. I'll see you later.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So they get in this headshot from this guy this Shakespearean actor named Jonathan Frid. He's wearing a cape in a Shakespeare play. And he's like, the guy's got a cape. That's good. Bring him in. So they hire this guy as Barnabas Collins, who's only going to be this guy for a few weeks. Jonathan Frid, originally Canadian, Shakespearean actor, has decided in New York he's had enough. He's going to quit show business. He's going to move to San Diego to teach Shakespeare at San Diego State University. So he's like, I'm out of here. I'm done. And the agent says, Jonathan, please, just one more audition. Just one more audition. It's just for this vampire. They want you to go in, go boogity-boogity. For 6 weeks, they stake you. You get some good traveling money, and you're off to San Diego. Oh, okay, I'll go do it. So they do it. So I don't know if you know this, but Jonathan Frid has always been gay.
What?
So, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
No.
So, yeah.
You know what? All you have to do is look at any of the extras from Dark Shadows when he's on a game show.
Yeah.
And you always remember his voice from the episodes.
Yeah.
He's
You
down
know?
here like this. It's like,
yeah, and then
I
then
think I'm going with square C.
Yeah. Listen.
Yeah.
Being Barnabas.
Okay, so he's gay. Okay, so
No,
moving
that's
on.
fine.
So-
That's fine.
So no, that's fine. But here's the story. So they hire this guy as Barnabas, and Dan Curtis comes back. He says, "Well, I want to meet the vampire guy." So he's like, "Hi, I'm Jonathan Frid." He's like, "Oh no. He's like, you gotta fire him. Try to get him fired.
The Liberace special is in Studio C.
Are you saying he tried to get
He
him
tried
fired?
to get him fired. This is 67, remember?
Right.
So he tries, says, I cannot have a lead male in a soap opera. We're pitching to women here. Come on.
Yeah.
This cannot be. So they said, just give him a chance. So he said, okay, we could be in a lot of trouble if we do that. So he gives him a chance, and the Frid, who was a stage-trained actor who did the same show every night for years and years and years, never changed the script. Now all of a sudden is having to learn a new script every day.
Oh,
so
my
he's like,
God.
oh. So they had the teleprompters, but you had to memorize this stuff all the time. Now, a lot of the New York actors at the time in Dark Shadows would do plays at night.
Right.
They'd do their Broadway shows, study backstage the script for Dark Shadows the next day, get some sleep, and then be on the set the next morning.
'Cause it's
and work
live.
from 8 to 5 and then go to do this thing.
It's live television.
Live to tape.
Live to tape, okay.
right.
So almost live.
Almost live, right. So apparently, this is kind of the lifestyle. So he had so much dialogue and so much to remember that he would go up on his lines all the time, and he'd get this paralyzed look in his eye during the live taping. What do I say now? And then he'd be looking for a teleprompter to get back on his script.
Right.
But the women saw that deer in the headlights look of poor Barnabas. Like, oh my gosh, he hates being a vampire.
Mysterious.
Are you serious?
No, that's true. That's true. And it's very interesting to see, especially those early episodes with him, where he just doesn't know what that next word is.
Yeah.
And he looks like, wow, you are really going deep.
Yeah. No, he would get that glazed look, and the women, not knowing the backstory of how he's going up on his lines, would think, oh, he doesn't want to be a vampire and kill people, but he has to. Oh, I love this guy so much. And 1,000 letters a week went to 5,000 letters a week, went to 25,000 letters a week, and pretty soon they're on their 6-week Barnabas storyline ended up going on for another 3 years.
Because he was like a minor character, then he became the forefront
character
of the show, right?
And it became more supernatural.
It did, yeah. And
Right,
they said,
right.
well, hey, if the Dracula storyline works, because Dark Shadows never had an original idea.
No.
They would just they would rip off Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They would rip off the Wolfman.
Reincarnation, witches.
Everything. Yeah,
Frankenstein.
so they ripped off all that stuff. And then they
Never did the Mummy, thank God.
They never really did. No, they never did the Mummy. That they would have gone there probably. They would have stolen everything.
Giant Gila monster? Really?
But they did Bride of Frankenstein. They did Frankenstein with the Adam character.
Yes,
they did
yeah.
all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So they added. So the Barnabas thing was going on for a while, and they decided to start futzing with dates. Of time elements.
Time travel.
Travel, right.
Yeah.
So they would go forward, they would go backwards, they'd go to 1700, they'd go to 1800s. Oh, by the way, a quick plug here. Dark Shadows, The Darkest Shadow, currently on CD. I got to play a role on the audio drama, and I did a couple scenes with David Selby.
Did you?
Are we talking Big Finish?
Big Finish, yes.
Oh,
just
that's
came out
amazing. I love those guys.
Just came out 3 weeks ago. It's called Dark Shadows, The Darkest Shadow. I play a character in there with Donna McKechnie, who was one of the old Dark Shadows people.
That's
It
great.
was a dream.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
And I sat there like I'm sitting next to Sean here, and I'm doing a scene with David Selby, and I'm trying to do my script, and I get to say the line, "Quentin Collins, you're a fool," and I'm like, I get to say Quentin Collins, and David Selby's sitting right there. But it went so well. We did it in one take, and they moved on. I was like, no! Can we do it 10 more times? But he's a great guy. So, but then they started futzing around with the time elements. Like, well, why is things going so crazy here in Collinwood? Oh, it's because of a ghost of an old ancestor named Quentin Collins. So they hired this really super good-looking guy to play the ghost of Quentin Collins, David Selby, with this thick hair, these intense blue eyes. The show was in color by then. And it didn't say a word. For like the first 3 months, all he did was stand on the corner and look really evil. Arch his eyebrow. And they said, we better give this guy some lines because the girls are starting to write in who was that good-looking guy. So the peak of that series that I loved as a kid was when Quentin was the werewolf because he had the gypsy curse.
Right.
And they also had Barnabas as a vampire. And they were trying to help each other because Barnabas is like, well, I'm a vampire. I know you're a werewolf. And I know a lot of the supernatural stuff. Let's try and get over this.
Can they share an apartment without driving each other crazy?
Oh my god! But the best storyline was a guy named Thayer David, who shows up in all the Dampers.
Genius.
Yes, Thayer David. He played.
He's the kingpin on the Spider-Man record.
Yes, right. Pulling a reference out of your
How about
ear.
that? Huh?
Right.
A rock comic.
He played a guy named Count Petoffy. Which was a really powerful supernatural guy who paid this guy named Charles Delaware Tate to paint portraits of people. Dorian Gray, and he says, "I'm going to do a deal with Quentin Collins and paint his portrait, and he'll never age, but the portrait will age, and the portrait will turn into the werewolf, and the portrait will age, but Quentin never will." Count Petoffy, who was this heavy-set guy with thick glasses and had a missing hand, had a secret plan. He was going to switch bodies with Quentin Collins after the painting was painted, so he could have the young, good-looking body and live forever.
Typical.
But the gypsies knew that he was so powerful powerful that they cut off Count Petoffy's hand. And I remember as a kid this stupid chroma key with this hand that looked like was made out of duct tape with a ring on it and spray painted flesh color.
Nice.
And they've got it against a blue screen, and the hand is like creeping across the screen, and people are like, ah, ah, ah. And then they cut to the hand into the blue screen, and then they cut, and then the guy's like got the hand around his neck. He's like, ah, ah. The hand of
and it's
Count
like Bela
Petoffy.
Lugosi with Ed Wood and the
the
squid,
octopus.
you know?
Yeah, the squid, yeah.
That's the thing with the show. I mean, they made that show in such a small budget.
As Barnabas falls over dead.
We have our wondrous figure here that just fell over. It was such a small
I'm
budget.
so exhausted.
But it was.
I must sit down. I'm sorry. I'll be over in my trailer.
But
you were saying- you were saying-
it had such a huge legion of fans and still does. I mean, it's despite its incredibly small budget. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it still has such a charm to it. You know.
Well, and that's the thing is those type of shows where I try to turn people on to those kind of shows now, especially people who are younger.
Yeah.
You have to go, imagine this as the most fun kick-ass play ever.
Yeah.
And look at it that way and see
Yeah.
it through the eyes of the time.
And that charm was missing from the Tim Burton movie.
don't even get
don't
me
even
started.
know.
God's sake, don't even.
See,
yeah,
you
don't
know,
even
you
get
know,
close.
Wally,
For a
I-
guy who should know better. You know? Right?
Yeah.
Wally, I chose not to see it because when I saw the preview, it was like it became a joke. It was a
It was a joke in the trailer. The trailer
and
made
I
me
was
vomit.
insulted. I thought that's not what I want to see.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to see something like a really cool Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
movie.
can't. The mistake was trying to make this your Austin Powers.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't work
and
that
actually,
way.
even when they try to revive Dark Shadows in the 80s, I believe, with Ben Cross.
90s, early
or
90s, yeah.
Which was interesting. They were trying.
Slightly
but
better.
Yeah.
Slightly better, but it still didn't quite have the charm. It didn't still, you
I
know.
enjoyed that one, however. And you
Yeah,
know what
they
killed that
tried.
show?
What killed that show?
The first Gulf War.
Oh, yeah, right.
So
right.
many people were watching the war coverage,
Yeah.
they just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, it did have a good cast. Barbara Steele.
Oh,
it had,
great cast, yeah.
Ben Cross. I mean, they were. I could tell they were really trying.
Who's the guy from The Invaders? Roy
Finnis.
Roy Finnis.
Yeah, they were really trying. That's kind
Suffered
of-
from some bad day for night, but
Yeah, well, yeah.
you know
Yeah.
that happens.
But it was. I liked Ben Cross's Barnabas. I thought
Yeah,
it
actually,
pretty
he was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
But
kind of-
the great part was the whole Angelique storyline. Was like, how did Barnabas get to be like this? And then they had to go back in time again and figure out the origin of Barnabas.
Yeah.
And, you know, the bat with the thing and the biting Barnabas on the neck, and it's clearly a rubber bat on a string. And a guy with a thing. And you know what the little bat sound was?
What?
A guy rubbing a cork on a glass bottle.
No.
Yep, that was the bat sound.
Well,
Yeah.
It's
wow.
like you were saying how they had to think of these creative ways to
Sure.
do. Yeah, because they didn't have a lot of
What's
money.
interesting when you said about how Jonathan Frakes was learning his lines and being kind of little deer caught in the headlights, which you kind of see a lot in one of the great DVD is the Dark Shadow bloopers.
If our
Folks,
listeners
go ahead.
have not seen
really
this,
entertaining.
it's something that you must see because the funny
it
thing
was
is
live to
actually
tape, so-
Wally turned me on to this because I didn't know about this. I went, "What? There's bloopers?" And Wally's like, "Oh yeah."
I got it from Sean.
From the moment Wally, the first moment, and think about it, this is back. It was live to tape, okay.
The
Pieces of
fly.
the set
But
falling over.
the people would forget lines. There would be like a little fly would fly
Those
around,
are
land on
always
people,
Landing everywhere.
landing everywhere. And some of the lines that think about it, it's live, and these people have to do. You have to read it. You can't.
Well, you just have to keep going.
You have to keep going.
It's
and
so
so,
much-
what was one of the lines he goes? It made no sense whatsoever. Where he goes, "It's
Your cousin, Uncle
or
Jeremiah.
Yeah, my cousin Uncle Jeremiah. Yeah.
Well, and that's what's great. That's what's so great. Like that's why it sets this blooper reel apart from others.
Yeah.
Is because you couldn't cut. You had
Yeah,
to just
yeah.
somehow make it work. So so there was a lot of scenes of like somebody forgetting their lines and then somebody else coming in and going, "Do you mean to say
yes,
that?"
yes, exactly."
Fred had a bad one. He's like, I will not be sitting here to take this.
So
Or tying up someone's tying up someone else,
Never, yeah.
and it's not even remotely tied up. It's not even the first part of a knot.
Look. I say this in a very loving way. You know, it's a great show. There's something that's very charming about it, and seeing those bloopers, like Star Trek bloopers, in a way, it's fun and it's wonderful to watch.
Yeah, at the height of its popularity, it was a very unique thing. It was a soap opera that was horror, right? I mean, kids were watching a
Very
soap
unique.
opera,
Very unique.
which was not.
It's the only soap opera in history that has gone into like regular syndication on regular other networks and so forth, and on video.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Name one other soap opera that's ever been released on video or DVD.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
It's very, very
pretty
impressive.
awesome.
And what other soap? You don't see bubblegum cards for As the World Turns.
Well, I made some.
We've brought up Dan Curtis before, and
yes.
we cannot credit him enough. If there's any one single producer who's responsible for making as big of an impact on horror in television in the 60s and 70s, it was Dan Curtis.
Well,
So
Jack
we have to-
Palance, Dracula. Wow.
yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, totally.
Probably
And we got to go, of course, to his crowning achievement.
trilogy of
Trilogy.
terror.
Segue into TV movies of the
Guys,
70s.
I remember when the TV guide came out way back when in the 70s, and I opened it up, and there was this picture of Karen Black and this little doll, this creepy little like African Zuni
fetish doll.
chasing her. I'm like, what the heck is this? I have got to see this. And I got the time of it, and so I was able to stay up late to watch it. And I'm waiting for this creepy little doll, and I had to go through these two other stories. I remember waiting.
Yeah.
Where's the creepy doll coming?
And the two stories are fine. They're all right. They're kind of they're
okay.
They're okay. They're just sort of
okay.
run of the mill, kind of like lightweight Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, it was basically the TV movie was 3 separate stories, and it was kind of a showcase for Karen Black.
Yeah.
Just kind of see her in different roles.
Right.
The
And
first one, there was
Richard
like
Matheson adapting his short story.
right.
Right,
There
right.
was like an evil twin story, and there was
which you see the end of that coming from
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Like, okay, does Karen Black have a twin? So no, it's Karen Black. Okay.
right.
And there's the teacher
And the teacher who's like
Yeah.
seduced by the so they were fine, but right the crowning glory of it was a third story, which is
Yeah.
what I think
Amelia.
called Amelia.
Amelia.
And the story was called Prey.
Right, based on Matheson's book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short story, and it was like she buys this little Zuni fetish doll from some
her
shop
boy-
or some
for her
swap meet
boyfriend.
or something.
Or her boyfriend,
And-
as you do.
and
What anniversary is that?
No, because he was in
Cursed African doll.
Remember, he was in archaeology, and she thought this would be
right,
something
right,
really cool.
and the doll had like a little kind of like band around it,
Gold chain.
little gold chain, and the scroll that it came with. Supposedly, if the gold chain is ever broken or falls off the
Yes.
doll's spirit will come to life.
Yes.
and that's what happens.
And it does. And it
it's
doesn't go
awesome.
well.
But the thing about that, when I was watching it as a kid, I'd watch a bunch of TV movies and I'd watch, $6 Million Man, but there's some camera stuff in this that I had never seen before. When the Zuni doll comes to life and she's running and the camera is like chasing after her, low angle
the point of
around
view
from the
of
point of
the
view of the doll.
Yeah.
I had
like Sam Raimi did later on with
Evil Dead,
Yes.
but I had
Yeah.
never seen that. And when she screams and the camera's moving, I was freaking out, and
terrifying.
It was terrifying, and I kind of wanted to pull back. I wanted to slow down, creepy doll, slow down, And, no, I did, and I really felt for her. And each part of me was sort of like, "How stupid are you?" But I think
That's what made you fall for Karen Black?
I did. I actually did have a thing.
If I had a nickel for every time I've said "slow down, creepy doll," slow down.
You usually say that in supermarket parking lots, right?
No, but who would have known that and I just know that as the creepy doll
The doll
story.
was such a ferocious creature.
And I'm trying to remember. I think it was on the DVD where they actually had some sort of like behind the scenes documentary, and they were talking about how they shot those scenes, and they're so low rent, like the
Simple.
special effects. where
Simple.
It's just they cut a hole in the floor and they have
Yeah.
the doll just going.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you how effective something that simple is.
Sure.
You don't have to over CGI
Over-explain it,
something. You can sometimes the simplest way is the best.
Or when she traps the doll in the suitcase, and then his little knife comes up and starts,
Yeah.
trying to
and
grab the
she
knife.
tries to grab it, and don't try and grab it with your fingers, you're going to get cut. And it shows that, and oh god, I just love
It was
that.
good. It really was.
But I heard an interesting story that Karen Black actually had the original doll. She kept it.
Oh wow!
And someone broke into her house and stole the
Okay,
head.
that was me.
No. They stole the head.
Damn you.
Only the head.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And so she had before she had passed away, she had auctioned off the body.
Oh, wow,
the
wow,
Zuni.
yeah.
So somewhere out there,
Yeah, you know why she did that?
Why?
Because the guy who bought the body is probably the fucker that stole the head.
Yeah.
There are a couple toys.
there's some
They're
great
kind of hard to
reproductions.
find, though. They're really pricey, though. There were some model kits of the Zuni Fish.
I had the model kit. I was living in a place where one of my neighbors was having a party, and they coincidentally were producing the sequel. They were involved in the Trilogy of Terror sequel.
Oh.
And as soon as I heard it, I brought over the garage kit, and they were like, "Wow, what are the odds that my neighbor would have this thing?"
And how soon can I move away from him?
The sequel, not quite as good.
Never saw the sequel.
Not too
Zuni
bad.
Fetish Doll meets the Wolfman. Not
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
as good.
You can't
no.
make Citizen Kane 2. There's just no point.
Right. But yeah, that was definitely. I like to, as far as TV movies in the 70s, like horror TV movies in the 70s is kind of a lost art.
Yeah,
It
there's a lot of
make-
great
Doesn't
ones.
really, yeah.
But there's kind of like, for me at least, there's kind of like the holy triumvirate of
All right,
films.
let's hear this. Let's
Okay,
hear
which
this.
for me,
so I can purposely disagree with you.
which was Trilogy of Terror,
Okay.
Bingo.
Gargoyles,
Yes.
and Don't
no.
Be Afraid of the Dark.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those three movies are three of my absolute all-time favorite 70s horror TV movies.
Okay, let's go back to Gargoyles.
Gargoyles.
Now,
Gargoyles.
Gargoyles is fun. It's not scary.
Come
come
I can argue with you a little bit.
What kind of a kid were you?
I was a kid.
Were you a kid? Were you
I had a
like
thing-
politics and
I had
stuff?
a
You go, this
thing-
is not real.
No,
This is not. Yeah.
I had these things called balls. Yeah.
It's on.
Yeah,
I see.
Someone dressed up in a gargoyle costume was like, "This is like like an inch away from being Gwar." Okay,
No, but I kind of looked at it more like kind of like a horror Planet of the Apes because I liked it for the action and the.
Where's your suspension of
monsters.
disbelief,
hold on,
Matt?
no, hold on,
What
wait a
kind of a
minute.
kid
Hold on,
were
wait a
you?
minute,
Did
wait a-
were someone tell you that Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny they're not
Santa
real?
Claus scared the fuck out of me. Some guy coming into your home late at night, giving you shit.
No,
You know what that leads to?
I'm just.
I want a puppy. Next thing you know,
I'm serious though.
no gargoyles.
Yeah.
Gargoyles. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I
I
enjoyed
like it
it.
a lot.
It's not scary though. That's what I'm trying to say.
I would
Not really
say it was
There was
spooky.
some
scary.
nighttime stuff in there that I
But
remember.
I love the main gargoyle played by Bernie Casey.
Casey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great. But it was fun. It was a really fun.
Fun.
Okay.
Fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It was
You know what it was like?
fun.
It was like a 70s version of like the Mole People. It was
Yeah,
like,
kinda a little bit, yeah.
Another terrifying.
Okay,
movie.
you know there are some scary moments in Mole People,
I will-
which is
I will-
we'll,
no,
you know
I'll
what-
agree. I'll
yes,
agree with you.
Okay,
I'll agree with you on that.
We'll talk about that. in another show.
But now, okay, so that's a good one. We enjoy it, but a scary movie. Now, this is a movie I think is scary, but more for the concept actually than it is for the execution.
Okay.
and that is Bad Ronald.
Oh yeah,
You don't know Bad Ronald?
No,
Bad Ronald's
I don't.
great.
Larry, you don't know Bad
I
Ronald?
don't. I'm sorry. I was
Get
going to
out.
go.
kind of a psychological.
I do not deserve to be
Bad
here
Ronald-
at this panel. Wally, do you know it?
Do you know Bad Ronald?
Yeah.
Oh
so-
my
so-
God! Okay, so the story of Bad Ronald is
McDonald's.
Was this a network thing? Was this on network?
yeah,
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 okay.
Was it?
ABC.
Yeah, with
Scott Jacoby.
Scott Jacoby and Kim Hunter.
What network?
No,
CBS?
Yeah,
Was
that's
it?
great.
Was it CBS or ABC?
One of those.
I don't.
Sure.
Yeah, it was one of the three. But
Okay.
anyway,
So please
Maybe
tell
we
me
didn't
what
get
it
it.
what is
I
it?
might not have gotten it in the Midwest.
What is it?
No, so the story is that there's this kid. He's kind of a misfit. The kids in the neighborhood don't really get along with him. Accidentally, he kills this little girl. Through a series of circumstances, she gets killed. But it was an accident. So anyway, he goes home, tells his mom. His mom says, "Oh, you know, they're going to come and get you. They're going to put you away. We got to do something." So what she decides is she's going to basically wall off this bathroom and make that be this little tiny apartment where he's going to hide in the wall. So when the cops come, she can just go, "Well, I don't know. He ran away, and I don't know where he is, and so you're gonna have to look somewhere else." And so, but meanwhile, she's taking care of him. She's teaching him. He's doing his schoolwork. But then she has some sort of medical situation that she has to go to the hospital for. She goes to the hospital, dies. So now the house is sold. A new family moves in, not realizing
He lives in the walls of this house.
Oh, my God.
With little
And
peepholes and can watch the whole
He has-
family living their lives.
Yes, he has peepholes all around, and he's also now really lost his mind. He thinks he lives in this world. What was it
like
called?
a fantasy kind of
Enchantra
world.
or something
Yeah,
like
something
that. Or
where he draws murals in his
yeah, and he's
room.
the prince, and then like the girl who lives in the house is like
He
the
starts
princess.
to fall for the girl just by looking at
And
her. Yeah.
and it's so creepy, and just and again, if you looked at it now, you might go, okay, well, it's not that scary, but like the idea of you move in a house, little do you know, there's a guy living in the fucking wall.
Well, and also for as implausible as it is, it's actually pretty plausible.
Yeah,
It could
that
actually
could happen.
Okay.
For the record,
We always
that was,
wanted to make it into a musical.
Okay.
It's like
That was,
perfect musical.
Okay.
that was the ABC Network 1974.
Okay,
There you
this
go.
is-
Right.
okay. What I want to tell you is, I don't remember the title. I do remember the movie. Now I did.
Now
see
you know.
it.
You did see it.
I
Okay,
did see. I
okay.
didn't know the title.
Okay.
but I was going to go a step further. I think something that really creeped me out, that I think was really scary.
All right, go.
Salem's Lot.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest, yeah.
There was a moment. There was a moment in Salem's Lot. Actually, there's a bunch of moments. There's a scene where there's the little vampire boy floating outside
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
window.
Oh, that's
And
good.
if
Right.
you're
Savage.
telling me that that's not scary,
Here's my problem with that movie.
Okay. Oh,
Here's my problem with that movie.
Yes.
It has scary moments. My
Yeah.
problem with that is that I read the book. The book is so great.
Great
The
book.
book is so strong.
That-
and the
that-
TV movie
yes,
changes so many
Yeah.
things. Like the vampire Barlow is now this like drooling Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Where in the book he's this smart, urbane, super intelligent, I've lived many lifetimes
right.
kind
So
of
it's another
vampire.
one of these. It's not as good as the book. Okay.
But I agree with you. There are some great scare moments in that thing.
Your faith against the masters.
Yes. Yeah. James Mason alone.
James
Yeah.
Mason.
Was it David Soul?
David Soul, yeah.
Who was in a great TV show.
Starsky and Hutch, yeah.
I'm not familiar.
Huge at the time. But the guy who played Barlow, I mean,
Reggie
Reggie
Naldo.
Naldo.
I have
Yeah.
not seen that vampire since when I was a little
Yeah.
kid. I saw the Nosferatu. So
Right.
this was the first time I'd seen it.
I don't know if it was like Toby Hooper, I think, directed the TV.
Yeah.
I think it was a
Yes. Yeah.
two-part,
Yes, he did.
4-hour
It was,
TV
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, I always wondered if it was whose decision it was to. Was it like supposed to be an homage to Nosferatu? Like why they went for that kind of?
Yeah, I'm
approach? I don't know.
crazy. There's actually a remake
Fred
that they
Willard's
did.
in that too.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. They actually did a remake with Rob Lowe and like
Donald Sutherland.
I never saw that.
Donald Sutherland, and that's pretty good. That's closer to the book, but still, somebody has to do the definitive version. I think of that.
That
book
came
someday.
out what year? That was 78, right around.
78.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was 78. I was 17. My sister was 7. And Jeffrey Lewis, remember? Look at me, all I'd have to do is say that to my sister, and she'd go, "Ah!" and she'd skedaddle off. I was rid of her.
But, Sean, you mentioned earlier, Don't Be Afraid of
Don't
the
be
Yeah,
afraid of the
Don't Be
dark.
Afraid of
One
the
of my
Dark.
favorites. Have it on
Now,
16 millimeter.
That is a scary, spooky movie, and that's a great concept
movie.
too.
That's scary.
Kim Darby and Jim Hutton move into a new house, and there's this in the basement. There's this cemented off like fireplace, and down living in there are these like little kind of gnome-like, strange little evil creatures that kind of want Kim Darby, and
Don't we all?
Do we?
And,
Do we?
at the
We
time,
do. At the time, we did.
and like
Mary, is this a good thing, Mary? The Grups. No more bonk bonk on the head.
We're going to save that one for our Star Trek episode, which will come at a later
That was
time.
kind of horror TV in a different way.
But yeah, so like she is seeing fleeting glimpses of these creatures nobody else does. They think she's crazy, and yeah, it's just really creepy. And the creatures were done; they were like little, about like a foot tall, gnome-like creatures, and it was all done with kind of like oversized sets
yeah,
and people
yeah.
in costumes.
Yeah.
But it worked actually really well, and it's a lot of shooting in the dark, and it's just great. Really creepy.
And what's his face from My Three Sons?
William Demarest.
Oh yeah, William Demarest
Yeah.
is the janitor.
And I love him
guy.
talking to them. There's like these just bizarre scenes of him talking to the little
I
demon
didn't tell
guys.
her.
I didn't
Leave me
tell him.
alone.
You know what happened?
Were they
to
named
people who
Ernie,
tell-
Chip, and Rob?
Yeah. Listen, kids.
Yeah, kids.
I know you're demons now, but I made you lunches.
Now, do you remember Dark Knight of the Scarecrow?
Yes.
Wait, wasn't that was that Disney though?
No, that's the
You're
Scarecrow,
thinking-
Romney
you're thinking-
Marsh.
Okay, so
Who was the guy that played Benny in L.A. Law? The kind of slow,
yeah,
and he played Dr. Giggles.
Yes,
and he
Dr.
played,
Giggles.
That guy.
Oh, Larry Drake.
Larry Drake.
Who
Yeah.
was my acting teacher for a while.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Larry
lovely
Drake.
man.
He was like a kind of like
played the
mentally
slow
impaired
kinda-
guy.
who was friends with this little girl, and the little girl got killed somehow through no fault of his, but he was blamed for it, and they lynched him.
He tried to hide in the
Tried to
scarecrow
hide in the
outfit,
scarecrow outfit,
and they killed him while he was in the outfit. And
Remind me, Sean, of the actor, the guy the evil cop who's after him, who sort of sets him up even, who was also in Tootsie.
Yeah, he's in tons of stuff.
know-
Blanking. But we'll look that up.
Blankenship.
Yeah, Mr. Blah, blah.
But keep going.
Yeah.
But the whole thing, you know, at the end, I was watching the because it came out on Blu-ray. The whole thing in the documentary at the end, this like, you remember when the Scarecrow right at the end, you know, turns his head and kind of looks? That was completely done way after the movie was finished.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They put a guy in the costume and they said, no, this is going to be our new end. So they put a guy in the costume, put him on a soundstage, blacked out all the lights, and just said, okay, turn your head. And with the straw like moving and everything, it's very creepy. And
That has to be the end, though.
Yeah,
it seems.
It has to be
the
the
whole
end.
idea
Yeah,
was that, you know, because the Paul Drake character was killed, and like, was he really still alive somehow in the Scarecrow? And he never really knew. And the little girl thought that he was. And she was convinced at the
What was
end.
his name, Bubba or something like that?
Yeah, Bubba, I think.
Yeah.
Great movie.
That movie is so good. Now that's another genuinely scary movie. We talked about Duel. Do
Yes.
people even know what Duel is?
Yeah.
With the two trucks?
The two trucks, yeah.
Or actually,
Oh, it's actually a truck and a car.
Yeah.
Dennis,
It's Dennis Weaver.
is great.
Dennis Weaver.
Just trying to get across country, and this giant semi is tailing him and
just fucking with him on the
messes
road.
with him a little bit, and he honks at the guy, but apparently that was the wrong thing to do because this truck is like
Allergic to honking.
As a giant problem with honking. Yeah. Even has a bumper sticker, no honkers allowed. Gas, grass, but no honkers.
Honk if you want to die.
Yeah. And so the rest of the movie is really just this truck chasing Dennis Weaver. And it's so good. And imagine like Steven Spielberg still kind of working out the chops that he would bring to Jaws.
Remember Spielberg's Night Gallery?
Yeah.
Yeah, with
that's
Joan
right.
Crawford.
Joan Crawford.
Right, yeah.
It was her
Oh,
last.
right.
I think that was
Last
her last
thing,
thing
yeah.
she ever
Yeah.
did.
Great
Yeah.
one,
With the
yeah.
eye, wasn't it with the eyes? Or
Well,
Yeah.
And it's Tom Bosley.
Tom
And
Bosley, whose
Bosley.
eyes he donates.
Yeah, there's a medical treatment that
yeah.
he can put his eyes into Joan Crawford, who's been blind,
Right.
For I think most of her life.
She's like this horrible rich woman
Horrible rich lady.
who all her life has been blind, and she's still collected all this art. And I think she's told that she'll only have sight temporarily,
Just for a few hours.
She wants all the art surrounding her, so you can see it all when she has her sight regained for a little bit, and she wants to be surrounded by this art. So yeah,
She pays Tom Bosley all this money so he'll give up his eyes so she can just look at her stuff for a couple hours.
And I remember him talking about, well, yeah, it's okay. I'm okay with it. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a World Series, and I'm like, oh my god, I would not
so
give
sad.
Yeah.
so sad.
Yeah.
He's like this down on his luck guy. He's like he
Yeah.
just has to do it for money, you know.
But then the big twist is that there's a blackout that happens right
in the city,
right when her vision comes back. And then the lights come back on, and she's got like a minute left of her eyesight.
It's awesome.
Like, oh, look at everything! Oh,
yeah.
But
hey, Tom Bosley, do you got a brother? Or,
that is a great episode, though.
Yeah,
That is
it's
a great
really good.
episode. And Duel was made specifically for television, but I understood that it was such a successful TV film that it was released overseas as a
I
feature
think
film.
it was,
So was Salem's Lot, actually.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
With a lot of stuff put back in that you had that cut for TV. Like there's, in the hunting lodge in Salem's Lot, there's all these antlers everywhere.
Right.
Well, at some point, one of the vampires thrusts one of the guys like trying to get stuck on the antlers, and the antlers pop through him.
I think Ed Flanders, meets that fate.
Oh yeah, that's probably where they got the idea.
Actually, also Leanna Quigley meets that fate in Silent Night, Deadly Night. Oh, there you go. While being topless.
Never sexier.
not a made-for-TV movie, but
No.
and we'll save that for another show.
But see, now Sean Sheridan has turned me on to a number of TV movies that I had no idea even existed. I missed them, I guess, for whatever reason, the time they were out. But you, like so many, what's the, there's the Devil Dog, Hound of Hell?
Oh, yeah. Oh, fantastic. With Richard Crenna, Martine Beswick, the two kids from Escape from Witch Mountain.
Yeah, both of them.
Great. So, yeah, it's a Devil Dog from Hell. That's what it is. It's great.
Written by the team that wrote Gargoyles.
Oh,
Actually.
yeah, there you go.
A very
it's
scary
great.
film, by the way. No, so this was done at with the popularity of the Escape from Witch Mountain, though, because those kids were
Yeah,
really,
so I forget
they did a lot-
the names of those kids.
Kim
So that
Richards
came after Escape
Kim
from Witch
Richards
Mountain.
and
Kim
the other
Richards
guy.
and the guy.
So what was it about?
It's a very convoluted story, but basically, somehow, for some reason, Satan has to take over the world by possessing a little puppy, and then that
I read that in the Bible. We talked about that at church tonight. It's very weird. I thought they were joking. It's true?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the puppy grows up to be a devil dog.
There's a satanic puppy rescue in Glendale.
No, it's really fun, actually. It's ridiculous, but really fun.
I could be wrong about this one, but there was one with Robert Culp and some chimps.
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is a very obscure TV movie from the mid '70s, but it is so good and so original. I can't believe this hasn't been officially released on DVD yet. It's a movie called A Cold Night's Death, and the entire movie is Robert Culp and Eli Wallach stuck in a Arctic research station, very much like The Thing.
The Thing, yeah.
They go there because the previous scientists sent this distress signal, and some weird shit has happened, and they're all dead or missing. And the research center involves studying the intelligence of chimps. So all these chimpanzees are in these cages in this Arctic research station, and Eli Wallach and Robert Culp go there to find out what's going on, and just weird shit starts happening. And I don't know if I want to give away what happens, but it's great.
Well,
it's like
they have reasons not to trust each other because their personalities, their approaches are very different as scientists. So then
Right.
it becomes this sort of psychological battle between them.
but there's something else going on. There's another
something
force
else is
happening
screwing
there.
with them.
So there's like a little bit of like, is it you causing it?
Right.
Yeah.
Or is it you
It's
causing it? Or
it's
is it
so
something
good.
else?
It's so good and so claustrophobic. And it's just, again, the kind of movie you'd never see on television that would be made today. But it is
You
great.
can probably find it. I'm assuming that if you went on YouTube, there's probably...
What's it called again,
It's
Sean?
called A Cold Night's Death.
A Cold Night's
And when
Death.
I was 6 or 7, I saw the tail end of this movie, and I remembered it all my life. And I was like, "What the hell was that movie with that ending?" And then finally, thankfully, we have
So
the internet now.
Monster Party
guess,
listeners, if you are listening to this, just check it out. Find it somewhere. It is great.
It really is a nice little sort
Yeah.
of forgotten classic.
Yeah.
I find it ironic that Eli Wallach was one of the Mr. Freezes on Batman. So now he's in this movie and he's like, again with the ice. I can't get away from the ice.
I guess after the good, the bad, and the ugly, he was like, fuck it. I want to be cool for the rest of my life.
For the rest of my life.
Yeah, really. I want to be sweating and greasy.
Well, now, when we get to now those are classics of their day.
Yeah.
And they've sort of led us into, we touched a little bit on the X-Files, which, were you guys X-Files fans?
I was an X-Files
It was
fan.
in
and
early seasons, yeah.
No, I was Matt, and I actually went to the movies, and I saw the movies and stuff. But
Okay, I need to, so we can start arguing now.
No. Going
Did you like the movie?
Going back to the TV series.
All right, okay.
Going back to the TV series. I liked the alien stuff, but there was one particular story that I thought it was like a horror thing, and there was this family that had this. I guess it was the mother under the
Like
bed.
the inbred family.
Oh my god!
No arms and no legs.
How disturbing was this? And I remember watching it, going, "How the hell did they get this on television?"
What was it? She had all the kids, or what was?
Yeah.
It was kind of a chainsaw kind of situation.
They wheeled her out.
They
from the
wheeled
bed?
her out, and I remember the visual of them pulling her out, and she was disfigured and messed up with her face. And I remember, look, I'm an adult watching this, and I'm all, I literally jumped up out of my
I
chair.
remember those first 2 seasons of the X-Files. I remember watching them and going, "Oh my god, it's a golden age. It's a brand new day."
And the first few seasons is when nobody was watching the show, too. At least the first
Right.
season. It was like this little show on Friday nights, I think,
Yeah.
right? And, like,
And there was
on Fox.
and it really had that sort of Night Stalker
It did.
feel to
Absolutely.
it. And there was the one that I always remember that I can watch again and again to this day is Squeeze, which was with
Toombs, the
Doug
guy.
Hutchinson.
a little bit of Bad Ronald there. In a
Yeah,
way.
exactly. And he's
yeah.
this guy he's this weird sort of mutant who has to, like, he builds a cocoon and lives in it for, like, 60 years and then comes out and then has to feed on people. And he'll find these people and he's able to manipulate his body so he can squeeze through these little tiny passages.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
like,
great.
he's almost like a vampire. He sucks their
Right.
life force
But
out of
he
them.
can he can squeeze through any
but
crevice.
and it's done so he's so creepy, and it's Doug Hutchinson who is actually creepy. So it's perfect. casting, and I remember the thing too is that like when they finally catch him and they find his nest, and it's this nest made out of like pieces of ripped up newspaper and magazines and bile.
The thing, the X-Files that scared the crap out of me was the bug one. Where it was all bugs, there's all these bugs, and the bugs could do these amazing things. And just before they broke for commercial, they superimposed a crawling bug across your TV.
I remember that. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
That was great.
That was a good one.
They
got me.
Yeah.
They got me.
Yeah, that was a perfect. To me, that was a show. That was a perfect example of a show that just like folded in on itself and just like completely lost control because they started doing all these overlaying arcs across seasons and.
They didn't even really
care
know
about
the
it.
ending.
I wanted, to be honest, I wanted the Night Stalker. I wanted standalone, episodic.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with doing that? Why can't you do that for 10 seasons?
The truth is out there. Unfortunately, it's so convoluted, nobody knows what it is.
Or the truth is out there, but we haven't figured it out yet. We'll write it eventually.
No, the truth is out there. Yeah.
So is the TV movie It off the table here as far as
no,
would be
no,
one of the great horror?
Any of them.
Yeah,
That movie, to me, I love the first half of that movie.
Yeah.
Much more than the second half.
Well,
but I
just
do
like the
like
novel.
a
The
lot
first
of
half
it.
of the
So
novel is much better than
it's
the second
Stephen King novel,
Yeah.
Right.
And Tim Curry.
Tim Curry as Pennywise.
We all float down here.
Whoa.
Now we had a guy. There was a guy on Facebook who today talked to me about that, and he was saying, "What's that Stephen King movie where there's at the end there's this weird creature that you see that's so terrible?"
Yeah.
It's a stop motion Ray Harryhausen spider.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
Yeah.
was
Oh,
that, was
great.
that in
Thanks,
the, was that in
Sean.
the novel
Spoiler
though?
Great.
Was that like?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it wasn't, but
I never read the novel because it was just I heard too many bad things.
No, I got
Yeah.
about halfway through it and just had to put it down.
Really? Are you serious?
And I was
Stephen
a big King fan
Yeah,
at
you
the
are.
time, and
James
yet-
is a
But
big
Tim Curry,
Stephen
one
King.
of the greatest.
Oh,
One of the
yeah, he
greatest.
was great.
Well, he's
Yeah.
good at anything.
Yeah, he's good at anything.
No,
Yeah.
Richard Thomas, Annette O'Toole, Richard Mazer.
Sure, yeah.
Annette O'Toole?
Yeah.
Dennis Christopher.
Dennis Christopher,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, the first half, it was, I think, a 2-part event on TV.
Terry Wallace,
The first.
Philip Can, Robert Bledson,
Are you just saying those?
Cheeky Melendez.
You're just saying names.
And Blankenship, who has returned.
his best role.
But I think
getting
the
back
first,
to the
first half was
Yeah.
the kids,
Yeah.
and then the second half was them grown up, and then the horror
Right.
or whatever kind of was coming back to
Yeah.
haunt them. You know,
Yeah.
But, that was actually I like.
So it was a good TV movie.
Well, Tim Curry, I thought was just off the charts. Great, with
and it's weird
yeah.
to see. It's weird to see Tim Curry on television too.
Right, yeah.
You know, I just do not expect him to be on television.
Well, at the time,
all.
I was like trying to see Frankenfurter in there, going,
Yeah.
oh, like, boy, this guy's really good.
I worked with him at a show. He was doing Me and My Girl
Yeah.
in San Francisco, and I was the backstage door guy. And he couldn't have been nicer.
I saw him at Me and My Girl here in Hollywood.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Super sweet man.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, you always hear stories that he wouldn't sign anything like Rocky
Rocky
Horror.
Horror
But he
related.
was fine. All kinds of Rocky Horror people came, and he'd sign and be really nice to them. In fact, he would have parties and invite everybody in the theater to come to his place.
Wow.
And he had a Halloween party where he dressed as the female lead of the show, and she dressed as him.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Well,
just a great guy.
He did an episode of Family Guy, and he came in, and I was trying to get my poster, my Rocky Horror poster signed, and it was for the new DVD release at the time, so it was a pretty cool poster, and I just kind of rolled it up so he couldn't see really what it is, and I
Yeah.
just said, could you sign this part? Because hopefully he wouldn't see what it was.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, what's this? And he unrolls it, and I'm like, shit! And he's like, oh, this is great. I love this.
Really?
Yeah, and he wrote to Wally, don't dream it, be it. I'm like, what were all the stories I heard about him not
Oh,
being...
yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't see any of that at all.
That's cool.
Good.
maybe
yeah.
he came to that point where he said, I'll just embrace it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like I wish William Shatner would be.
Well,
for-
William Shatner kind of did, but so begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Right.
And
But
even now, he really hasn't. Yeah, yeah.
That's another story.
But that's another
Speaking of
show.
William Shatner, horror at 37,000 feet.
Oh,
Hilarious TV movie, star-studded with like Roy Thinnis, William Shatner as a boozing ex-priest, Buddy Ebsen
Playing Barnaby Jones.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many people. What's her face? Elon of Troyes, France Nguyen.
Oh, Francis Nguyen,
Francis
yeah.
Nguyen, yeah.
Tons of people. It's basically an airplane has in its cargo hold like cursed sarcophagus that like Satan's coming out of or something, and so people are trying to stop like a Satan from taking over the plane. It's great.
No,
It's the real story behind Malaysia Airlines.
Was Kingdom of the Spiders made for TV, or was that just
No, it
on
should have
TV?
been, though.
It should have been, it plays like a TV movie.
Yeah, because I always saw it on TV. I never was sure if it was made for TV or not.
Totally.
Now, as for newer horror things, we've got. My God, nowadays there's so many horror things.
Yeah,
The
totally.
Strain, which is
Haven't seen that
and Walking Dead, which is great.
Oh,
and,
Walking Dead.
yeah,
Love Walking
yeah.
Dead.
American Horror Story?
American Horror
American
Story.
Horror
At a,
Story.
1 and 3, very enjoyable.
Jessica Lange. Who would have known?
But
It's
now,
amazing.
have any of you guys seen Penny Dreadful?
No, I haven't.
saw the pilot.
I've heard some interesting things about
I
it.
think you would. Yeah, I think you guys would really enjoy it.
I couldn't get into the pilot. Eva Green really turns me off. I don't
Wow.
know what it is.
Matt,
So-
Matt, what is
So you don't have a penis.
No, okay, no,
I see.
Matt, Penny,
This is very subjective.
Penny Dreadful. Please tell me what.
Penny Dreadful is sort of it. Wally, I think that you would enjoy it because it does a really good job and respectful job
Of the old monsters.
Of old
Yeah.
monsters.
My
of-
assistant Sarah loves it.
Yeah, a new take on that, but still respectful of the source material and takes some nice, interesting sort of twists and turns. Has a real kind of feels like what the Dark Shadows movie should have been. And I've only seen 2 episodes, but I really enjoyed both of them, and especially after the second episode, there's such a great little twist that feels like almost like a season finale. And it's like, oh, wow, this is where we already are. So,
Oh.
I mean, I don't know if it gets worse or better, but, maybe you guys listening could tell me because so far I think it's great. And I think you guys would all enjoy it. I'm curious to see.
You know what my biggest problem
What
with
was
the
your
pilot
problem?
was? It's a little anachronistic.
It takes place in the past. Okay.
It takes place. No. It takes place in the past.
You're going to hate any caveman movie.
No. It takes place in the past, but it still seems a little too contemporary, and I just have a problem with that. I cannot get out of oh wait, nobody said that 100 years ago. That kind of thing.
Wow. Are the hairstyles? What is it? Is it from that period? Or
Yeah,
is it
everyone
more
has Farrah cuts and they're
Well, it's not like the Downtown Abbey picture that came out this week with the sparkless water bottle in the back.
Really?
Yeah.
Nobody catches that.
Nobody catches
Wow, that's amazing.
And even if you did, you didn't Photoshop it out.
Yeah, nobody cares anymore.
Well, you mentioned Walking Dead. I mean, if you want to talk about something that's realistic, I mean, very realistic.
aside from the zombies, but go ahead.
No, the zombies are
Based on a true story, I hear.
Look. The Walking Dead is fantastic, and The Walking Dead has it's going in its 5th season.
it's pretty
and
amazing,
it's just
that show is great, and I'm a big fan. I still read the comics. I've been reading the comics.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Big fan of it since those days. And when the first season came out, I was like, wow, this is it's like first season. Sometimes it takes a little while to kind of get on its feet, and then the second season came out, which was so terrible until the very end.
What?
Until the very end, that I was almost ready to go, oh my God, I can't watch another second of
what
it.
was
I
wrong with the
agree.
second
I
season?
agree.
No, what was wrong with the second season?
Just stupid, preachy.
Oh wait, are you talking
dumb-
about when they go to the farm?
farmhouse?
The farm was great.
No, it's like
Nothing happened.
No,
No.
Sean.
There was one zombie they pulled out of a
Sean.
well. That
Yeah,
was it.
and then they
Sean?
drink that water.
No,
What?
first of all, Sean, imagine if you will, if you are in an apocalyptic society, okay, and you eventually find a farm where you
Well,
get together with a group of people. That is real.
But I
that's
don't have to
life.
see it every
That's-
day of that
That is
life.
real life.
Do
Sean.
one episode like that, not a whole season.
Yeah, not a whole
But-
season. Terrible writing of like people going like it was like every episode it was like, well, we live in a world where we have to get ourselves back up to society and
Yes,
like,
yes.
but like
Yes, there's a lot of that.
I can hear that once, but then twice and 3 times like yes. Instead of telling me what's happening, why don't you show me?
First of all, there was more than just one zombie in the well. I mean, there was that scene. There was that scene, and there were other zombies, Sean.
Yeah, and why weren't there more zombies? They established a rule like, hey, don't shoot off your weapons because it calls them and you'll get a herd coming at you. Cut to them having target practice. Like,
Yes.
There should be more zombies. There should be 100,000 more zombies overtaking this
Well,
fucking
if you remember,
farmhouse.
they didn't have the target practice so close to the farm. If I remember correctly.
Oh,
They were,
no,
yeah,
that's
they were
right.
little-
That's
they were
completely
little farm.
different.
I thought
But first of all,
That's completely they had it in the non-zombie zone.
I thought the whole living in the farmhouse arc ruined Star Trek too. Actually,
I just want to say that I had no problem with that second season with them living in the farm.
I can't leave.
Wally, can you weigh in on this? Did you watch? Were you following Walking Dead?
No, I have a friend in the Midwest. We're huge zombie fans. We saw all the old 80s zombie films together, and he says, you have to watch this. And I'm like, I'll get around to it someday, but I'm still into Magnum PI Season 4. So I've got to... So I'll get it and put it in the queue, but it's going to be 2017 before I get around.
Look, I
haven't made it to the season finale of your show of shows. So I can't,
just look, hey, the guys...
bet your life.
Look, Galen Hurd and Nicotero, I mean, all the people who are working on that show have done an amazing job. And I applaud them, and I think the show has been realistic.
Well, it's
and
interesting how they've developed the characters and where they kind of go with it, because it's a very grim, downer of a show. You have to kind of be in the mood to sit and watch it, because it's quite.
It is true. It is true that I have been watching. There's one episode where I was so depressed.
Yeah,
I want to go
really
slit my wrist.
Show.
I really did.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, I know which one too.
But see, this is where I give it credit. Is that I think
they go there.
I really feel like after that second season, they knew it was bad, and they knew we got to turn this around. No, I'm sure they did.
I disagree. No, I think
they went because that third season immediately had a different tone
because they got to the prison. Okay, and I think what it was like the calm.
They went
before
back to the comic book.
No, look, they went from there was like this calm before the big storm, and you can't. I don't think, Sean, you can
more
throw
of a nap. More of a nap.
I know what you're saying. You can't throw zombies at you constantly.
But like the last few seasons have done a good job of creating situations for really interesting, unique situations for the characters.
I love it now. I love it.
Don't always involve zombies.
I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, I do.
I'm really curious to see where they're going to go with it next. And what's her name? Denise Crosby's in it now.
Wow.
She's. What did you guys get to the end?
Yeah.
She's the leader of.
I forgot.
What do you call it?
Yeah.
What's the
to remember that? That's
so
right.
no, it's
look.
it's really
I applaud them,
Been
and
a
I
while.
think all our Monster Party fans should continue to support it.
And we do, and I like it. And you have to like that one episode too, where it's the little girl, right?
I've talked to you guys about this, and there's this whole episode where the one character, the little girl, goes missing. And the main character, the sheriff, he was kind of like watching her, but he went to go pull some zombies away from her, and then he went back to find her, and she was missing. And so they spend many episodes trying to find her. When you get to this finale, spoiler alert, you have all these zombies inside the barn. And as there's this huge dramatic scene, and it's very, very emotional.
We're talking about a different scene, but that's okay.
No. It's like they let the zombies out, and they're shooting them one at a time. As the zombies come out, the last one that comes out is the little girl.
Who is the daughter of
who is
the
the daughter
woman
that they've been looking for the entire time.
Just heartbreaking. The futility of these people who are constantly going out day after day after day trying to find her.
And that is great. And that should have been part of a 3-episode arc, not an entire season.
You know what?
I
stuck with it, and that at the end of that, I literally went to the bathroom. I did like that. I was so depressed.
That's because you're a father, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And Sean, it's funny because I was wondering. I say, God, maybe this is just too dark for me to watch.
You have to be in the right state of mind to watch it. It's not the kind of. It's not like light. It's not like fun light entertainment. But it's so well done and so well acted.
It is,
and it definitely creates a completely believable world. I mean, like I say, you're always kind of wondering where it's going to go next and what. And like I said, I do not follow the comic, so I just follow the series. But
the show now, what I was waiting for with that show was to hit a place where it matched at least the tone of the comic book, and it had shades of that in the first season. 2 went way off the rails, and then now it's like what it is, which is what it should have always been: bleak. It's the zombie apocalypse. It should be bleak,
it's dark,
and horrible. It's horror. Make it horror.
Right.
Any True Blood fans?
Not really.
Triplets?
No,
Tribbles?
Any Triplet fans? The new show that I'm True Blood.
Oh, True Blood. I'm sorry. True Blood.
My wife loves it. I always found it a little bit shrill for me. I can't find another word to describe it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's for it's more for maybe it's more of a women's show, perhaps.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right, now you're payback. All right, I got it. All right.
With the whole Twilight thing.
Seeing women's titties doesn't do anything for you, huh? A lot of that in the show. But okay, fine.
I heard this final season sort of jumped the shark. I hear it's It's not.
Well, here's the thing. It's the type of show that, like, and I will give into any sort of criticism in that show where sometimes it can border on the ridiculous.
Yeah.
But most of the time, at its best, it finds this fine line between the ridiculousness and a good story.
And titties.
And titties. And there's, and Anna Paquin, she's got a pretty hot body, I got to say. But anyway, but that's for another show.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah. What happened, though, is this season, all that's gone. Now it's full-on bad soap opera. And it's a shame because it's something that had a nice little run that was going well, and then it all just kind of fell to shit.
It's funny because it seems like there have been a lot of like vampire stuff. There was a Dracula one that was on NBC. That was the guy John Rice.
It was the follow-up, or was the show that came on after Grimm, which I think is an incredibly overrated show.
I'm not a fan either.
But yeah, it was just called Dracula. It was like this hip, cool, modern Dracula.
What's the guy? He was in the Tudors. Is John Rice? What's his name?
I don't know. But
he's a good actor. He also did an Elvis, by the way. He was in an Elvis episode.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
He was in that Elvis Dracula movie.
No.
The premise was ridiculous. They contemporized it.
Yeah.
They made him like some Wall Street, like Gordon Gekko type. It's like, what the hell do you need this for? He's Dracula.
Well, it only
why do they
lasted
keep
one
doing
season.
Bad Dracula movies and TV
It shouldn't have
shows?
even lasted one episode.
Right.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Unwatchable.
All right. Well, then, I mean, if we're gonna close this thing out, at some point we should talk about the most terrifying of all television horror series, The Munsters. Oh my
I thought you were going to say
God.
Twin Peaks.
Well, yeah. Oh my
The
God,
Munsters.
The Munsters with that, and then Grandpa.
Well, you were a big
getting
fan.
in trouble.
How you mean?
Were you guys big fans of the Munsters?
I love the Munsters.
Did you?
I realized
Tell
I
me.
wanted to become an actor when I was 5 years old, and I said I want to do that because it'd be fun. And somebody says, "Yeah, they pay that kid to do that. He gets to be on TV and they pay him. Oh, I want to do that. Yeah, I knew what I wanted to be as soon as I saw that show. I loved the Munsters.
Well, what I loved about it too is that it was also just kind of like this homage to classic Universal monsters, but not. I mean, just doing them their own way and just having fun with it. I thought it was cool. The black and white photography.
Do you remember the feeling you got when you first saw Munster Come Home in the movie theater and you saw them in color?
Oh yeah, I know.
Changed a religious experience.
And then being allowed to finally show nudity in that movie.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Lily's tits will go down.
Man.
I have to tell you what.
Purple
I
areolas.
thought I was going to say Marilyn.
I was very serious. Sean, I was very serious about my monsters, and the one thing I didn't like was I felt that they were making fun.
Really?
I did. So
What?
I wasn't as big of
Do
a
you still-
fan as
now,
the
though, do you still
Munsters.
feel the same way?
No, I don't. But as a kid, I remember my feeling
it didn't bother me because it wasn't exact. It was the Munsters. They were like those classic monsters.
Yeah,
They weren't exact.
and it was it was a family that lived in your neighborhood in a way. But I did, and the funny thing about that is, it was actually me seeing the movie in color, and there was something about Herman's green, and I thought, "Ooh, that is a cool color." Was it? He was like
kind of purplish, though? I thought.
Actually, I don't. What was the color? It was kind of
know.
a green. It was a greenish gray or something. But whatever the color was, just to see them in color.
The first movie was fun too. It had Terry Thomas in it, John Carradine. It was
I didn't feel they were making fun of the monsters. I was more upset that they were making fun of Marilyn Monroe. Oh. No, I'm kidding. With the Marilyn with the nice blonde hair and the whole thing. Because she was the ugly one in the family, remember?
Yes,
I was like, oh, poor Marilyn. How does she...
There were who?
There were two.
I know there were two. Who was Pat Priest?
Pat
first
Pat
or
Priest
second?
was the one we all know.
The one we
Right?
all know.
She
But
was
the
the first
first
one?
season was...
Somebody else. Okay.
Someone else, yeah.
Then Pat Priest took it over.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's kind of the one we all remember, right? Okay.
Yeah, but I love Spot. I love Uncle Gilbert.
yeah.
I love
And
Yeah.
Spot was probably the scariest of all of them.
Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes was what's the name of the actor, the character actor comic who played Zombo? Was it Zombo?
Was it Paul Land?
No, the horror host that Eddie
Zachary
Munster
Lee?
watched.
Oh, Zombo. Yeah.
Zombo, yeah.
What? Oh.
Louis Nye?
Oh, Louis Nye.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
Louis
yeah.
Nye. He was great because I love the idea. It was like Eddie Munster watched this horror host on TV, and Eddie thought he was really like that.
Right.
And then he went to see him because he got to be on his show. I was like, wait a minute, you're a fraud.
Yeah.
It's a lie.
I forget that one. Was he Louis Nye in real life?
Yeah. It was Louis Nye playing Zombo, but then he took off his makeup.
Eddie, you've ruined everything.
He would like take off his makeup, and Eddie was just
I said
like,
Paul Lynn. Actually, Louis and I is one step away from Paul.
yeah, totally. Well, that had great character actors. I mean, Don Rickles was,
Sure.
I think he was a
Yeah.
car salesman or something.
Yeah.
He had great character actors.
Very good lighting. Very good, nice
Yeah.
universal
Yeah,
lighting.
it did.
And,
It was
there are
great.
actually some really nice monster figures out there right
Yeah,
now.
and
The
merchandising
monsters.
for the monsters
And
is
you,
great.
if you get the set, then I guess you get the whole section of Spot or something.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see Spot, though. I always kept thinking, some episode you're going to see Spot.
The
Are those
whole
the
Spot.
Are those
Yeah.
the Tweeterhead
No,
figures that are out?
I don't know the name of that company.
I don't know.
Tweeterhead has.
Is that the
They're doing
company?
the Batman 66 now, but they also have the Lily and they have the Herman.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
These
And they also have an Uncle Gilbert, by the
these
way.
are about like
6
yeah.
inches.
Yeah, 6 inches.
Oh no,
and-
these are full on.
Yeah,
No,
and
no,
then
no.
if you each one you get like a section of the stairs.
Yeah,
Oh,
the stairs.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
All right.
Well, there's a lot of great.
we could keep going,
Yeah.
and we will for another episode.
Maybe we'll do
Yes.
part 2.
But we're
should.
gonna have to.
Yeah,
there's,
we're gonna-
there's so much out
There's so
there.
many more TV movies to talk about.
But holy Moses, this has been a great
been a lot of
episode.
fun.
It really has.
And
Thank
Jesus,
you, Wally.
Winger,
Wally,
thank you so
for
much
all
for
your
gracing-
knowledge.
Well,
Thank you for
very much.
gracing our presence. And you got anything to plug? What are you doing?
I am doing just the usual stuff, voice over video games. A lot of stuff I can't talk about because of NDA and stuff like that.
Oh, I
But,
got it.
the
I got it.
cartoons
But-
and stuff. They all.
But Wally Wingert is always doing very well.
Yes, he is.
And
Well, thank you.
yeah.
I'm one of those guys that just wants to be constantly busy, and sometimes the industry has its peaks and valleys. And
We know it well.
it's in the summer right now, and it's one of the valleys.
Sure.
But see,
like-
that's why we're so thrilled to have you, because we wanted to have you on the show
Yeah.
for a
Totally.
long time.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
thrilled
always
that you
nice
could
to
be here.
have a loyal monster lover here on Muster Party.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I love it.
And let's all sign off. I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Sean Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Watch TV horror movies and TV series.